Okay, so in example 2, we're going to solve 2 cosine squared of x minus 1 is equal to 0. So just like before, we're going to get the cosine squared by, or cosine by itself first, and then we're actually going to look for the angle. So let's just use our algebraic techniques. Let's move the 1 over by adding it. So then I get 2 cosine squared of x equals positive 1. Then we're going to divide by 2, and so I get cosine squared of x equals 1/2. Now to get rid of the square, remember do the opposite, which is square root. So the square and the square root cancel, so we got our cosine of x equals, when you take the square root of something, you get plus or minus, and the square root of 1/2, I can rewrite that as the square root of 1 over the square root of 2. I'm just kind of working that out a little bit here. I get cosine of x equals plus or minus, the square root of 1 is 1, over the square root of 2, I can't reduce, can't have that radical on bottom, so let's get rid of it. So I get that cosine of x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 2 over 2. Now when I think about what quadrants I'm in, I'm looking for where cosine is positive and negative. So I'm looking where it's positive in 1 and 4, and it's negative in 2 and 3. So I'm looking for all 4 quadrants. So, but instead of having to write 4 different answers and putting plus 2 pi in on that, let's look at something else here. Alright, so if I find my quadrant 1 angle, and of course if I add 2 pi, I'm going to come all the way back to that same exact angle. But what would happen if I only added pi to it? Well, if I only add a pi, then I end up going into quadrant 3, and if I add a pi to that, that would take me back to quadrant 1, and the cycle could continue. So if I find the quadrant 1 angle and I put plus pi in at the end, I'm covering the quadrant 3 angle as well. And then the same thing for 2 and 4. If I find that quadrant 2 angle and I put plus pi, then that puts me in quadrant 4. And if I do another plus pi, it's going to put me back in quadrant 2, and the cycle just continues there. So all I really need to do is find my quadrant 1 and my quadrant 2 angle and put plus pi in instead of plus 2 pi in. So let's do that. So let's look for our quadrant 1 angle first. So this is going to be for quadrant 1 and 3. So remember cosine is your x, so look in quadrant 1 and you'll see that your angle is pi over 4. And then I'm going to put plus pi in, and we need to clarify that where n is an integer. And then for my quadrant 2 and 4, go to quadrant 2, find where x is square root of 2 over 2. You'll see it at 3 pi over 4. And then to cover your quadrant 4 angle, put plus pi in. That way it just keeps going, and it'll cover every angle that's in those quadrants as it goes round and round the circle.